Kia ora and welcome to day 17 of the Beer Jerk Premium Advent Calendar.
He's Luke.
He's Matt.
And we are here drinking a Saison from Boatrocker Brewing in Australia.
Boatrocker are really cool.
Love Boatrocker.
They are, people meaning us, often compare them to 8 Wired because there are a lot of similarities. They've both got really big barrel aging programs. They both have a really good approach to European traditional type beers. They do really good stouts well. And
now that 8 Wired also have their own whiskey, they've got distilling in common as well. So Boatrocker make a lot of their own spirits and whiskies in addition to the brewing that they do.
Yeah, so cheers. Really cool brewery, lovely people. I had the chance to go over there and hang out with Matt a few years ago, who's the founder and owner of Boatrocker. And I think maybe he just didn't have much on that afternoon, but we actually spent probably three hours just drinking all of his varieties of Ramjet, which was just the two of us.
That's an afternoon.
It was.
So Ramjet is Boatrocker's kind of flagship imperial stout. It's about 11%.
Yeah.
And they do different vintages, put it in different barrels, and they muck around with that beer a lot, and it's fantastic.
There's all kinds of stuff. So they do the Dramjet, which is, I think, fortified with whiskey.
Yeah.
And they use, they get all different kinds of whiskey barrels that they age it in. They put it in just different varieties of barrels.
There's sparkling Dramjet, and they release regular Dramjet, which is actually a still whiskey fortified imperial stout.
Yeah.
And then sparkling Dramjet, which is the carbonated version of that.
Absolutely amazing. Just such huge, wonderful beers. And a lot of the wild fermentation stuff is really fantastic. We've got a few left at the fridge and flagon, and I think we might have like 2 of the dark beer 4-pack, 1 of the 4-pack left.
So it's not a dark beer 4-pack, it's a barrel-aged 4-pack.
That was it,
and we do have 1 of that left. And that has Time Lord, which is their Gers, a blend of 1, 2, and 3-year-old spontaneously fermented sour beer. Plum Lord, which is the plum version of that. Stay Weird, which is their Brett Apricot table beer, which I love. And also Windmills and Weathervanes, which is their Molle Imperial Stout in collaboration with De Molen from the Netherlands. And that is, we do have a few extra cans of that. So if you're coming down to see us at the Fridge and Flagon this afternoon for our Christmas party, you can grab one of those out of the fridge too.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous beer. And
this is not a ridiculous beer.
No!
This is a lovely, delicate beer.
So as I hinted at before, they don't just do crazy shit. They do some really good classic stuff. So like their Hellas is beautiful. So all of these traditional European styles that I'm so into, that beers that are just really balanced and just from the old-fashioned way of drinking, which will be you just go to your local bar and you drink Saison and you have 5 glasses, then you go home. Then you go to the same bar after work the next day. And just when people would drink, Guinness would be their drink, or Orval would be their drink, or Saison Dupont, which is sort of the heritage for a beer like this, I suppose.
Yeah. So Saison is, to take a step back a bit, it's a Belgian farmhouse style. And it's a style with a really broad range of interpretations because its origin is in Belgian villages, and every village would have their own take on it. And the word Saison means season, so it was brewed seasonally for farm workers. And as the kind of the house beer of various farmhouses that have their own wild yeast strains and different grain bills, mostly using a combination of wheat and barley. And this is kind of on the sweeter side for what I'd normally expect from a Saison. A lot of them are super dry. They've got that Belgian yeast character, so you get notes of pepper and spice, clove, banana sometimes. Not so much banana in a Saison now that I say that out loud. Ignore that.
I'd cut that out in the edit if we edited these things.
I was just getting excited about wheat beers in general, but that's not true. This is a style of beer where the yeast really sits at the forefront of the flavor profile. You've obviously got your malt and your hops coming in there in support. You've got as the base, but the yeast is the predominant character where a beer like this really shines.
Yeah, this is a beer that I really enjoy, and so we at Beer Jerk are the importer for Boatrocker in New Zealand. You may have met them at one of the beer varnas. They've been open for the last couple of beer varnas. But whenever we do an import, I always get at least a case or so of the Saison, just because I'm such a big fan of it myself. Yeah. And also their stout as well, the core ranges, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, as Matt was talking about the history of Saison, it's a style that's only really been quantified and qualified in sort of recent times with things like the BJCP and these like the just judging guidelines that exist these days.
So that's the beer judging certification program.
And a Saison, as Matt says, if you drank a Saison 50 years ago in Belgium or France, it will probably taste pretty radically different from place to place. There's also a style called Grisette, which a Grisette is the same as Saison. Only the history of that is it was made for coal miners rather than some more people that worked in mining and more heavy industry rather than agriculture, which was Saison. But if you look at the roots of them, they are basically the same beer, but due to these beer judging guidelines, now they have become separate things, which is kind of interesting that there's us modern people dictate what a Saison is.
Yeah.
But it could have been kind of anything a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah, but Saison is, I think, for both of us, one of our favorite styles.
Yeah.
They tend to be light, easy drinking. They have that interesting, like that yeast spice profile to them. You'll see a lot of different interpretations, as we touched upon. So one of the styles that we, with our Small Gods hats on, are loving bringing to New Zealand is the table beer, which is basically a lower alcohol Saison, usually sitting kind of in the 2-3% range. You can also have dark Saisons, which are, we actually had the Good to the Grave from Sailor's Grave in Goodland a few days ago, which was the pink pepper and grapefruit dark farmhouse ale. So that would be, I don't think they use the word Saison on that, but that is kind of in the Saison family too. So it's a really broad style. But it's like, coming back to it again, it's that yeast character that really sings out. And there's that drinkability, like you could put this away all afternoon.
Yeah, it's there's enough interest going on there, but this could become your beer that you just drink day after day after day. And Saisons are so great because they're not all about the hops, which of course, people love hops and they are the most popular beers, IPAs, but Saison's a whole family of beer that you can do really interesting stuff with the malt bill. The yeast is the hero. You can work with interesting adjuncts, really interesting style. Our Saturday tip for you might be to drink more Saisons, and if you're home brewers or in fact commercial brewers, brew more Saisons, and
especially if you don't have temperature control.
Yeah,
because one of the things that home brewers often struggle with, talking to one of my mates who was home brewing and it got too warm and kind of the yeast started throwing off some off flavors, and he doesn't have the space for a fermentation chamber. But Saison yeasts are actually one of the ones that benefit from ambient fermentation. So when we brew our Saisons, we pitch them and let the temperature free rise. Some of the best Saison makers will do that. Craftwork down in Oamaru, they actually have a warm cupboard where they do their Saison fermentation. I think they might have upgraded from the cupboard at this point.
I think it's a warm room now.
Warm room
now.
But yeah, so if any of you homebrewers are out there, have a crack at brewing a Saison because they're delightful and drinkable. No problem to get through a 20-litre keg.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
And bring a bottle in for me to try it. I'll give you some good feedback.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about that temperature nearly as much as you do with some more sensitive styles like lagers and ales.
Yeah. Brilliant work from Boatrocker, as always. Massive fans. So cheers everybody, and one last reminder, you heard us, it is day 17 of Advent, which means it is the 17th of December, which means you're pretty much your last chance to order beers and get them in time for Christmas and New Year. At Beer Jet, we're going to have a little bit of a close down between Christmas and New Year, so we're not going to be dispatching any beers that week. You probably are going away to your batch during the summertime, and you probably won't be able to find much good beer. So order our summer sampler box.
Do it.
Order the 3 Magi trilogy from Small Gods. You do not want to be stuck at Christmas Day having Christmas dinner and drinking some god-awful, out-of-date Max that's been sitting warm on a shelf in some bottle shop in some beautiful location that doesn't really care about beer that much. So order from Beer Jerk today. Do it now while you're thinking about it.
You heard the man. Cheers.
Cheers.